You want answers?
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth.
I would hope in the back of my heart, I would hope that maybe the media would pick up on this and start giving us a new focus and showing what imagination and technology can do with helping Americans survive with what's about to happen. There's no need for us to be led down a perilous path by our leaders when issues like this at their fundamental core are not being addressed for us, because it's about national security, not just about individual elite security.
Okay, very good. Thank you, John. Let's go to Manitoba, Canada. Hi, Sandy. Go ahead.
Hi. I have a question about the comments you made regarding level 7 and the characteristics of the humans that are housed at level 7. Now, you said they were persons with mental illness?
They were the security personnel, according to Thomas Costello, were informed by their employers that the individuals being used in scientific research and genetic alteration were irreversibly insane, and that they were unwanted parts of society, and that many of them were criminally insane. They had done something wrong. Mm-hmm. And that they were instructed not to talk to any of the subjects that are being used, and believing this, it allowed them to be able to carry out their duties, as distasteful as they are. Just seeing these people in this condition and hearing the pleas for help or the whimpers of crying in the dark or something, I mean, that would really eat away at somebody. But given that as a background, they felt that they were able to deal with it. But once it was discovered that some of these people were actually reported missing, the whole story changed. And there were other issues going on in the base at that time, supposedly, between security personnel and scientists, and some sort of shootout that took place because some notable figure came down from the Pentagon and whipped out a gun and just shot one, thinking, well, it's just an animal, I can do what I darn well want. And that just didn't have to be the case at that point. But, and so that's what I know about the human subjects down there.
John, as a crypto hunter, do you look at Bigfoot at all?
Yeah, we can't help but see the different reports coming in, even in Bishopville, South Carolina, when I've been there investigating with Sheriff Liston Truce. I always associate myself with these sheriffs in these rural areas because they're so knowledgeable and down to earth. They'll be the first ones to say, I suspect an alien or something. But in looking at the types that were down there, they had reported them wearing furs or being seen in furs, but having claws and scales and three-toed claws, and so everything was talking about a dinosaur man or a lizard man, but at the same time people kept saying, well, I saw fur. When I looked out my window, all I could see is this big bulk of fur beside me, but they said it wasn't a bear. It could be that some of these rather not as progressive reptilian humanoids that live in caverns near the surface of the earth are somewhat akin to like the natives living in the Amazon jungle that just like recently that had never seen an airplane before, where they throw a spear at it thinking it's a big iron bird. There might be some reptoids out there in remote areas that are just as wild, but they may have actually learned how to wear a fur just like a caveman would learn how to wear a fur for warmth, because remember, their outside temperature is not as regulated as true warm-blooded animals. So I can only imagine that if there was a pack of them out there, that they would cover themselves. So these reports bleed over between Bigfoot and lizard man. And we even have some guys that, research Bigfoot, and they go out to South Carolina, and they go, well, this is a Bigfoot, obviously. They try and dismiss everything else, but that just really isn't the case, I think that we're looking at something far more complicated, and animal nature and the way that culture develops using clothing and such like that would say that there's something else going on that's not just so black and white as, oh, it's a Bigfoot.
Let's go east of the Rockies. Hello, Brian in Indiana.
Hello, Mr. Rhodes. I apologize. My cell phone's cutting in and out a little.
Yeah, it is. Go ahead real quickly with your question, Brian, then I'll put you on hold.
Sure. Just curious. Would you...
We lost them.
Uh-oh.
Cell phones, John.
Yep, he's gone.
Louisville, Kentucky. Mike, it's your turn. Hi, Michael.
Hello, George. John.
Hi, Mike.
How are you all both this evening?
Good.
Very good.
Great show, great topic. John, I wanted to ask you, I was reading a book not too long ago about Nikola Tesla, and in that book, toward the end of it, there was a little story in there about this deals with an underground facility that may be located at the bottom of a crater deep in the Amazon jungle, where there's supposedly is fantastic research being conducted. They said that may be a possible source of some of the UFOs that people are seeing. And as strange as it sounds, that some of the top scientists that existed back, like at the turn of the 20th century, had actually gone there. And instead of their reported deaths, that they had actually gone to that location, such as scientists like Marconi, Tesla himself, and others, and were living at this place underground, and fantastic, research is being going on there. That it didn't mention anything about it being of alien origin exactly, but the part in the book was not really. It was kind of vague, actually, to be honest with you. But it just mentioned that this was a theory, and that possibly even psychic Edgar Casey had seen this in a vision. So I might read up on it a little bit more, see if I can find out some more information, about that on the internet somewhere. But my question to you was, have you ever heard of anything like this?
Well, I had not have heard of
that location.
Yeah, I had not heard of this specific location. I do suspect that when they have discovered underground locations that are either ancient or whether our government or some other private corporate group has built them, that our leading scientists of our day would end up going there to do research. We know up in Sonora, California, there was the Aero Club up there that were designing in lighter-than-air ships at the very earliest part of this last century, and they were flying them around and seen as being something quite remarkable because nobody else had them yet.
Right.
So, and that whole work with Dellenschow, and it's very fascinating, and I think that they have used the underworld to hide things from us for a long time. It's very secure down there, and it's out of the public view, and more importantly, it's out of satellite view as well, which is the main form of terrestrial espionage from one country to another. So you have to take everything off the surface. When we're looking at Area 51, we're just looking at it as a sideshow. Mm-hmm. When we're looking at the TTR, the Tonopah Test Range, we're looking at just, what they're allowing us to see. All these locations, they don't really care about because the majority of it is all underground.
Well,
I've heard reports that are fantastic about, an Olympic-sized single-piece stainless steel swimming pool.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, fantastic things.
Everything that you see about Area 51 is so, I want to say smoothed over or something, because all you see is rooftops of buildings. I mean, you don't see any detail. You don't. That's as far as you're allowed to see. Because I looked at a website that had to do with Area 51, but I was very disappointed because it was an aerial view, and all you saw was a scattering, smidgen of buildings. But, no sign of any activity or anything like this, or nothing, but, and certainly no flying saucers sitting on the ground or anything like this.
They've got those hidden away.
Oh, yeah.
Tucked away in a little shelter.
That's one of these things that falls into the category is, they don't want you to see this,
Exactly. Hey, we got to take this break. We'll come right back with you, John Rhodes, and final phone calls in just a moment on Coast to Coast AM. Indeed. John Zaffis, Carmen Reed join us on our next Coast to Coast program. He, a paranormal investigator. Carmen Reed will tell her story about living in a haunted former funeral parlor. Why would she do that? But it's a strange story. That'll be our next Coast to Coast show. Up next, final phone calls with John Rhodes on Coast to Coast AM. And welcome back to Coast to Coast. We've got John Rhodes, and we've got your phone calls as well. John, great job tonight, by the way.
Well, thank you very much. It's always a pleasure to be able to talk to you, George.
Yep. No matter where we are, conferences, this program, it's always a pleasure.
Yeah, thanks.
Let's go to Vancouver, Canada. Hello, Mary. You're on with John Rhodes. Mary?
You've covered a lot of
areas here, elements tonight, like between governments and extraterrestrials and Hopis and stuff. And I don't doubt our governments are building stuff underground.